This episode of Attack on Titan was pretty damn incredible in terms of its character writing. Once again, this episode though has a lot of stuff we gotta talk about. First of all, Samuel and Daz return from season 1 and then die. Yeah, who would have thought that would have happened? Kiyomi almost breaks Floch's arm, and all I gotta say is just should have went for it. Should have dislocated that shoulder. I wouldn't have been mad. And just in general, we're gonna talk about how Attack on Titan just does not waste any character no matter what. So let's go ahead, let's get into this episode, and let's talk about it. And as is tradition, before we get into the video, I want to announce that we're almost at 900 followers on Twitter. At 1,500 followers, we're going to be doing an Attack on Titan themed giveaway. And if you're wondering what I'm going to be giving away, check out the next video for the details on that. And of course, will release a tweet on what we'll be giving away. So head on over, follow me at SeaTactics YT if that interests you. I'm pretty active over on that platform. So Hanj and Magath survey the area together, which is something I never thought I'd see. Two leaders of two opposite militaries warring against one another, actually working together. It's pretty quick how things can change in a world war, I suppose. It's complicated, the way things are set up right now. As they're trying to figure out a plan, basically just trying to understand what the Yaegerists are up to, they sort of go over why they haven't destroyed the flying boats yet, and Hanj maybe comes up with an idea that maybe their goal was to control the Azumabito. And that, in some ways, kinda does actually seem to be the case here. Floch has Kiyomi and the mechanics as hostages, so that does actually seem to be the case, but even then, they can't just go stomping in, because even with the power of the 9 Titans, stopping them will be hard. They can't destroy any of the flying boat, they can't kill any of the mechanics accidentally, so they've kind of gotten themselves into a little bit of a hard place. So Annie suggests they just all go in and kill them all, even the Azumabito. But even Peak is like, no, Annie, we shouldn't be killing these people. These, not only, just logically speaking, these are their allies, but as well, these are the people they need to repair, fix up the boat, if anything happens, so they're actually able to fly the thing. I do like as well how Oyan Capone is in this episode, and he actually has somewhat a bit of importance in this story going forward. He's actually going to be the person that's going to pilot the flying boat, which is, I think, really cool for his character, because he's always found a way to be useful in some ways towards the plot, pretty much in, well, I guess every season he's been in, which is one, but I guess every part of the season he's ever been in. He's a pretty useful dude, and I really enjoy his character. So basically, Annie summarizes that their goal is to not kill anyone and to achieve all of their goals by basically having no conflict. Annie, though, she's very smart to actually combat this. Annie wants to know what Armin's plan is in all of this, because he can't simply just expect to go in and ask for these planes without some sort of fight, because, well, the Yaegerists, and Floch by extension, are crazy assholes. And this really backs up a continued theme in AOT where Armin he's not as against Floch as he should be. He is not as combative against Floch's decisions, and because of that, he almost, in a way, in situations where he's involved, he kind of lets Floch take the lead, which is kind of how they've gotten into the place they've gotten into in many ways. He doesn't stand up for himself when he clearly should. This is a parallel, of course, between Bertolt, the former Colossal Titan, and I think it's really good writing on Isayama's part, because as we know, when you inherit Titan powers, you kind of inherit parts of their memories and some of their personality traits. So it's actually very smart writing to have Armin be this way. Though with Armin, you have to think he's not technically always been this way, so it's interesting how much his personality has sort of changed in this subtle way. I like how Connie reminds them all that they're not actually here to they're not here to fight against one another, they're here to save people, which is a very important distinction that I think Connie is right on. They should all remember that, yeah, they're here to save people, and Annie agrees with Connie, saying that they would have never done what Reiner and she would have done. They would have never destroyed those walls in the first place, which I think is a very important distinction and really sets all of these characters apart. It sets Reiner apart, that's for sure, as we're about to get into, because Reiner finally figures out what Eren meant all along when he said that they're just like each other. So from this moment forward, basically Reiner tries to imitate Eren because he realized that Eren wasn't a suicidal person, but he was actually insanely driven and determined to accomplish his goals. And that is what really set Reiner and Eren apart for so long. Eren was just so determined and driven, while Reiner was, well, he was suicidal, he was depressed, he didn't really know what he was doing, and he sort of got lost in the shuffle in many ways. So really, this is a big brother, little brother situation that we have going on here. Eren is leading by example, and Reiner is following in Eren's footsteps. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this before with their dynamic between these two characters in the past, but wow, it's really incredible the way that Reiner was inspired by Eren to do what he hasn't done for so long. In many ways, it was Eren that helped Reiner solve a major piece of the puzzle inside of Reiner's head, which is really cool to see. And it once again shows that there is just no wasted character in Attack on Titan. There is no wasted moment. There is no wasted line of dialogue. Almost everything from every previous episode and previous season, and even future episodes, they all make sense within the context of the story. And because of that, the writing is this complicated thread of just trails and paths that lead into one another in some way, shape, or form. And that's what makes Attack on Titan so compelling, is that it rewards you for paying attention, and it rewards you even if you didn't pay attention, because, you know, I'm in this video, and maybe some of you didn't even realize this, but I'm in this video telling you this, and now you're rewarded because you went out of your way to, you know, look up this stuff. It's really cool. It's really, really interesting. That's why AOT is so good. Hange, though, reminds them that they all need to act. They've already killed Yaegerists anyways, which I think is funny compared to the last episode, how they're like, we all need to talk. But that's neither here nor there. It's a whole other different conversation. The Yaegerists are obviously the enemy at this point, and they kind of can't be reasoned with. And Hange reveals the information that the Titans have already arrived on Marley and have already flattened some of Marley's cities, which immediately, for the people from Marley, depressed looks on their faces. I cannot imagine how they feel. I mean, try to put themselves in your shoes in this situation. Imagine if your hometown or homeland or country was stomped out by the rumbling in a matter of seconds when you thought that you had more time to save these people. Not only that, but these northeast cities were wiped out in moments because of the rumbling. That is such devastating power. It's frightening, horrifying even. This does make Magath really angry though, and he absolutely breaks Yelena's arm. This scene is really cool though. It's such a really cool scene for Magath because it shows how much I think his character has come. For Yelena though, it is a little bit different. Yelena decides that she wants to live because she wants to see what is essentially, I guess, the fruits of her labor. And if she sees it, well, maybe she'll actually tell them where Eren is in all of this. So Yelena is their key. They can't exactly kill Yelena, but Magath sure made sure she wasn't in complete working order. He snapped her arm. That was some crazy stuff. And the look on his face, you know, you talk about the rumbling that's horrifying. I don't want to make Magath look like that. I don't know what Magath would do if I made him that angry. That's scary. So what Magath does next actually reminds me of 86, which now that I think about it, if you guys are into the anime 86, I literally just released my breakdown analysis on the brand new episode of 86 that just dropped. Of course, you can find it in the cards right above to the right there. I encourage you all to click on it and actually watch it because YouTube didn't send the video out. It didn't really get that many views, so if you guys could give it a healthy boost, if you enjoy 86, I would greatly appreciate that. It's in the cards. Check it out. It's a great video. So what happens is Magath apologizes. He was being pretty flippant in the last episode talking about justice, and it was all essentially to just justify his actions. He didn't want to look at himself because it would mean seeing the way Marley actually are. are, and that in turn would reflect on him and his own values. And he admits it was wrong to judge them on their past and race, and he wants people to remember history for what it actually is and for what Marley's actions actually were, and not to erase it, because that's what Eren Yeager is planning to do. And as well, he even says that nothing will end if they keep ignoring their foolish actions of war and hatred and fighting and racism against each other. And I love this. I really do, because Magath even, he's like to Armin, like, please close your eyes to my foolish actions, and Armin refuses to forget those things, which I think is not, it's not him, choosing not to forgive Magath. I think this is him listening to Magath's words and actually propping him up, because Magath says he doesn't want people to forget Marley's history and their actions, and Magath is asking for them to forget, at least for this moment, and Armin refuses to do so. I think that is a absolute top bro move right there from Armin and for the rest of the people on Paradis. If you guys had any doubts from the last episode that Magath was some, bigoted racist person who doesn't want to see things for who they are, this episode shows that Magath is just someone who maybe is a little bit stubborn in their ways, and the words that they spoke that night with each other actually had a profound effect on Magath, and he's realized how wrong he was in all of his past actions and misdeeds. This was a huge moment for Magath's character, and I think going forward, I think this kind of closes out his arc. And it's really sad to say that, because that just, it's another realization that Attack on Titan is ending soon, and I don't want it to end. I want to keep talking about it, and I will after this season ends, of course. I will still continue to make AOT videos, don't get me wrong on that, but I just, I don't want the new stuff to stop coming out. This series is so amazing, the characters are so awesome, and Magath is actually, one of my favorite characters, especially in season 4. He's a really cool, unique, interesting character that I think, especially after this scene and after this episode, shows that he's, one of the better, maybe one of the best secondary characters in the season who didn't remain static, as I think a lot of people expected him to, but actually became a more dynamic character in the end. And that's really cool stuff. It's really good writing again. Then we get to see Floch. Floch never fails to impress me with how much of an asshole this guy is. So Floch basically reassures Kiyomi that her new home is here on Paradis. It doesn't matter what's outside of Paradis, Kiyomi. Your home may be flattened by everyone, but your new home is with us, with me, Floch Forster. That's pretty much what he's kind of saying in this scene. Such an asshole. By the way, I did a video on Floch if you guys haven't watched that yet. It's got something like 50,000, 80,000 views now. You definitely should check it out. It's a pretty good video. Anyways, Kiyomi reminds Floch that they're actually just making the world smaller by continuing to fight, and that at the end of the day, they're just going to continue all of this war anyways. We're going to talk more about this line here near the end of the video, because this is a very important thing I want to bring up. Floch, on the other hand, tells her to, mind her place. They don't need any of her tech. They could just kill her at this point and kill all of her mechanics, and, it doesn't matter. Eren's already succeeded, right? And then puts a gun to Kiyomi's head, which, all I gotta say is, can we stop bullying Kiyomi, Floch? Who gave you the gun? Take the gun from him. Why are we letting him do this? Stop, Floch. It's Kiyomi. But alas, Armin and Connie arrive. They make up a story that the armored and cart titan escaped in the water. Armin and Connie should be nominated for an award for their acting in this. This was some super good stuff for their characters. So this is the part of the episode that I think is really cool. So they go to the docks, they go to the flying boat, and they meet none other than Daz and Samuel. And you may be asking, well, what's so important about them? In season 1, Sasha saved Samuel. She actually shot one of her hooks into Samuel's leg to save him. That was Samuel. As well, Marco in season 1 saved Daz from trying to commit suicide. These two characters are actually a pretty cool, I think, callback to season 1 and a pretty cool cameo, because we haven't seen these characters, I think, since like season 2 or something like that, but they had their most important roles in season 1, and this was super cool to see. I loved this scene from beginning to end because it was so well done, and the fact that it was Samuel and Daz that are in this scene makes it so much more emotionally effective, because these are two characters that are still alive that were saved by very very beloved dead characters in Sasha and Marco. By the way, I made a Marco video recently. That's another one you guys should really check out. It's actually really in-depth on Marco's character. I really enjoyed that one. Immediately, Samuel and Daz are pretty actually suspicious of Armin and Connie, and there were actually rumors rumbling about, I assume spread by Floch, that actually Armin and Connie would come and try to do something like this. So when it seems like they're actually going to take the explosives off of the flying boat, all that's left is for them to actually just hand over the mechanics, but something goes wrong. Floch is probably too smart for his own good and figures out the plan pretty quickly of what's going on, and as Floch is pointing the gun to one of the mechanics to take out the mechanics, Kiyomi actually grabs the gun and puts Floch in a armbar, and I'm just like, you go girl, you go Kiyomi, you're the best, she deserves her flowers. Absolutely, Kiyomi is a badass. And then as Yaegerists flood into the room to presumably try and kill Kiyomi, Mikasa jumps through the window and saves Kiyomi, and I'm just like, oh my god, yes! This is the perfect timeline right here. Kiyomi putting Floch in an armbar, Mikasa embedding a gun in one of the Yaegerists' face. This was a great scene. This was cathartic even, I would say. But Floch, man, he is a slippery fellow. He actually is able to escape and alerts the others, and then they decide, well, we got to escape to the basement. And you kind of figure out why that is pretty quickly. But I love how they go to escape, and there's Yaegerists that meet them at the stairs and try to kill them. And Magath and Hanj and they shoot the Yaegerists. And Magath says, come with me if you want to live. Hasta la vista, baby. Some good stuff. I added that last part, but it was definitely a Terminator reference, right? Come on. That was such a Terminator reference. And then, sadly, the climax of this episode was pretty sad in many ways. Armin and Connie are forced to actually kill people at this point. Samuel shoots Armin like 3 times, and who would have ever guessed that Samuel would be shooting Armin? I mean, if you told me that would happen, you know, a year or 2 ago, if you told me that in season 1, that Samuel would be shooting Armin 3 times, 2 times in the chest and 1 time in the jaw, I would have said, no, you're joshing me. But no, it's true, it happens. And Samuel, he feels betrayed because he remembers the promise that they made on top of that, on top of the walls. And this is a very important scene. After Sasha died, this was actually the scene they chose to play at the end of episode 8 of the final season to pay homage to Sasha. And it's rather fitting that they once again harken back to that scene in this scene by having Samuel reference basically the promise that they made to all eat meat together. And it's just really sad of what comes next, because Connie pins Samuel to the ground and, well, he's forced to shoot Samuel and shoot Daz. And it's really sad to see the way things have turned out in this situation, but it's one of those things where you can't really change it. You just can't. It's just something that they had to do, and it sucks because if Connie didn't act in that moment, then, you know, Daz would have killed Armin, and you can't have Armin die, especially at this juncture in the story. He's such an important character. He's the Colossal Titan. You can't have such an important figure die like that. So Connie made the right choice, and sadly, he then had to put Samuel down. It was very sad. But I do want to bring something up. This is something that I said I was going to bring up at the end of the video, in the middle of this video, and that is, in this episode, Kiyomi states to Floch that they'll continue to kill, basically, and they're only making their world smaller. Yelena states that you can't take the violence out of people. You can't take that away from them. And if you remember, in one of the previous seasons, Erwin said, humanity will never stop fighting until there is only one person left. That is some really poignant stuff. This is also some facts right here. There's constantly a war happening as, you know, I'm recording this right now, and there probably was before that. Violence, war, famine, greed, all of these things are just natural traits of the human mind. It's just what we are. You can't take these things away from us because it's built into our DNA. These are things that will just always stay and will always be with us. You can stop wars from happening, right? You can stop violence from happening. But these urges and instincts and things like that, they're just, you know, like I said, they're survival instincts, and they'll always be embedded in us forever. And I think this also kind of states basically in so many words that, yeah, like humanity in a certain way is almost kind of doomed. It is what it is. But this episode was really good. I really enjoyed this from beginning to end. I thought the characters and the writing was essentially perfect and basically everything I asked for. This was a very nice episode to pick back up the pace. It's nice to see Reiner and Annie transform. Can't wait to see what happens in the next episode with that. Overall, I'm very impressed. This was just a really good episode, and I want to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. And also, check out my 86 video that came out yesterday on the newest episode, and as well, check out my Floch Forester video. Put a lot of work into those videos, so thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.